Que ahora es en español, son las 4:02, que le retiro en français, les 4 heures de Cienzai, TDN le, CDN Liang Arfen, 2 minutes past 4 o'clock in the afternoon, here at Broadcast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Have you had a checkup lately? If not, now is a good time. Let's not wait till we get sick to get a checkup. How about that? Checking in with more on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com, live on your smart devices all over the world. Taking your calls on 876 922 4112 to 5. 876 922 4112 to 5. Text line, same as the WhatsApp number, which means you can not only send us your text messages, your WhatsApp messages, your voice notes, but you can call us on WhatsApp as well. The Italian explorer Marco Polo died on this day in 1324. On this day in 1493, Italian explorer Christopher Columbus, sailing near the Dominican Republic, saw 3 mermaids, or what he thought were mermaids. In reality, they were manatees, and described them as not half as beautiful as they are painted. 6 months earlier, 1451 to 1506, Columbus set off from Spain across the Atlantic Ocean with the Nina Pinta and Santa Maria, hoping to find a Western trade route to Asia. Instead, his voyage, the first of 4 he would make, led him to the Americas, or the so-called New World. Mermaids, mythical half-female, half-fish creatures, have existed in seafaring cultures at least since the time of the ancient Greeks, typically depicted as having a woman's head and torso, a fish tail instead of legs, and holding a mirror and comb. Mermaids live in the ocean, and according to some legends, can take on a human shape and marry mortal men. Check around. Are you married to a mermaid? Mermaids are closely linked to sirens, uh, another folkloric figure, part woman, part bird, who live on islands and sing seductive songs to lure sailors to their death. Mermaid sightings by sailors when they weren't made up were most likely manatees, dugongs, or Stella's sea cows, which became extinct by the 1760s due to overhunting. Manatees are slow-moving aquatic mammals with human-like eyes, bulbous faces, and paddle-like tails. It's likely that manatees evolved from an ancestor they share with the elephant. The 3 species of manatee, West Indian, West African, and Amazonian, and 1 species of dugong belong to the Sirenia or Sirenia order. As adults, they're typically 10 to 12 feet long and weigh 800 to 1200 pounds. They're plant eaters, have a slow metabolism, and can only survive in warm water. Manatees live an average of 50 to 60 years in the wild and have no natural predators. However, they are endangered species. In the US, the majority of manatees are found in Florida, where scores of them die or are injured each year due to collisions with boats. Now, closer to home, what is now known as Old Harbor Bay. Good afternoon to the people of Old Harbor Bay. What is now known as Old Harbor Bay used to be called Puerta de Vaca, Puerta de Vaca, Puerta de Vaca, Cow Bay. It was so named by Christopher Columbus, who visited the area on his way home after discovering the north coast of Jamaica in 1494. The cows were manatees or sea cows. Columbus found many Taino villages surrounding Old Harbor Bay. Here he met what he described as the most intelligent and civilized of all the Aborigines he encountered in the Caribbean. This was a stately cacique, that's a Cacique, cacique, who traveled in a canoe as large as a seagoing ship and painted all over. In full regalia, the chief and his party boarded Columbus's ship and distributed presents of island's produce among the crew. It is believed that this was the paramount cacique of Jamaica, as Jamaica was called. Based at White Marl, the chief Bohio on the island. During the period of British settlement, Old Harbor became the principal port for the area. Today, Old Harbor Bay is a busy fishing village 3 kilometers south of the town of Old Harbor in the parish of St. Catherine. 1703, on this day in 1703, a fire which started at midday destroyed most of the houses rebuilt in Port Royal after the Great Earthquake 11 years earlier in 1692 wreaked havoc on the area. There were many deaths, and once again the survivors fled across the harbor to Kingston. On this day in 1768, Englishman Philip Astley staged the first modern circus in London. Trick riders, acrobats, clowns, trained animals, and other familiar components of the circus have existed throughout recorded history, but it was not until the late 18th century that the modern spectacle of the circus was born. Astley, a former cavalry sergeant major, found that if he galloped in a tight circle, centrifugal force allowed him to perform seemingly impossible feats on a horse's back. He drew up a ring and on January 9, 1768, invited the public to see him wave his sword in the air while he rode with one foot on the saddle and one on the horse's head. Let's go to 1776, a significant year in the history of the United States of America and the history of Jamaica, i.e., the Kingston Public Hospital. But on this day in 1776, the writer Thomas Paine published his pamphlet Common Sense, setting forth his arguments in favor of American independence. Although little used today, pamphlets were an important medium for the spread of ideas in the 16th through 19th centuries. Here are some words of wisdom from the great Thomas Paine. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. On November 3, 1794, Thomas Paine was released from a Parisian jail with help from the American ambassador James Monroe. He was arrested for having offended the Robespierre faction. 1788, beside a long tidal river, or in the American Indian speak, Quinnetukut, is Connecticut. They spelt it, or it was translated as Quinnehetukut. Quinnetukut. That was 1788. So in American Indian speak, that's how it was spelled and pronounced, Quinnetukut. Well, today it's known as Connecticut, or as the Americans say, Connecticut, the state that entered the United States of America on this day. Hartford, the capital of Connecticut, and of the insurance industry, boasts having the oldest newspaper, the Hartford Courant, which has been publishing since 1764. Many of the state's symbols have been there as long, if not longer. State fossil, Eubrontes giganteus, bird, uh, the American robin, the flower, mountain laurel, tree, white oak, animal, sperm whale, mineral, garnet, shellfish, eastern oyster, insect, praying mantis, hero, Nathan Hale. Other symbols came later, like the song Yankee Doodle and the ship USS Nautilus, nicknamed the Nutmeg State, Connecticut. The fifth state also has an official designation, the Constitution State. Easy to figure out. In the 1630s, the English settlements along the tidal river gathered together to form the Connecticut Colony and wrote the first constitution in the New World, Fundamental Orders. Connecticut's motto, "He who transplanted still sustains," or in Latin speak, "Qui transtulit sustinit." Qui transtulit sustinit. Income tax was introduced in the United Kingdom on this day in 1799. British Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger, and that Pitt is spelled Pitt, William Pitt the Younger introduced income tax at 2 shillings 10 pence in the pound to raise funds for the Napoleonic Wars. Lord Horatio Nelson, the British naval hero credited with saving Britain from an invasion by France, was buried at St. Paul's Cathedral in London on this day in 1806. Napoleon Bonaparte, who led France to preeminence on the European mainland, was consistently thwarted by Nelson and his Royal Navy at sea. On October 21, 1805, Nelson defeated a combined French and Spanish fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar, fought off the coast of Spain, and Napoleon Bonaparte was forced to abandon his invasion plans for England. Nelson, however, was mortally wounded at the height of the engagement while pacing the quarterdeck of the HMS Victory. More in a moment. ¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 4:16 que le retire en français. Il est 4h16. Tiens, TDN le CDN Shir Liao Fen. 16 minutes past 4 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Have you done your homework yet? Yes, it's back to school time. Good afternoon to all the schoolers listening to us, all the students from the early childhood level to the secondary level. Trust you had a productive day of learning today. Hope you also managed to get in some physical activity, just as important as mental activity. As we always say, young people, socialization makes you educable. Education makes you trainable. Training makes you employable. and the right attitude makes you successful. Homework time, young people. Continuing with more on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. Couple of stories getting our attention right now. No report of XBB.1.5 COVID-19 variant in Jamaica. The Ministry of Health says there is no indication that the Omicron variant XBB.1.5, which is spurring the current COVID-19 surge in the United States, there's no indication that it is present in Jamaica. That's the official word at this stage. Brazil cracks down post-riot and vows to protect democracy. And we're told Ruel Reid and co-accused to return to court in April. Gareth Bale retires from all football. And the Haiti Senate president has been injured or was injured during an attack. Those are some of the trending local stories as published by the Gleaner, but there are a couple of other related stories. Well, we did give you a couple of regional stories as well, but what we don't have here is the UK summons Iran's top diplomat over executions. There's another one that has to do with Jair Bolsonaro. Brazil's Bolsonaro admitted to hospital in Florida. And much is being made of Kate Middleton's 41st birthday, her first birthday as Princess of Wales. So the royal family traditions continue. Good afternoon to Asha Ash. She says, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan. Just letting you know, back where I don't want to be, London, UK. Sure, she says. Never mind, Asha Ash. At least you were able to soak up a lot of the energy and the fun and the food and the family and fellowship and frolic here in Jamaica. So now that you're back in the UK, which is usually dull and grey, just recount the nostalgic moments and cherish the memories. How about that? Cherish the memories. Good afternoon, Natalie Winter. We see you. Great afternoon, all pleasant viewing from Washington Gardens, Kingston 20. Remember to take care on the streets, drive safely, and arrive alive. Take care, says Natalie Winter. Good advice, Natalie Winter. Faye Weller says, hello, everyone. Mr. Dervan, I'm here watching. Good to know you're on board, Faye Weller. Thank you very much. And Joan Edgehill says, good afternoon from Florida. Good afternoon, Joan Edgehill and all the other Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica in Florida. Still have quite a bit. This one, who is this now? I am Alvin Williams, and I first have to thank you and this station for the wonderful work. Bad administration is the parent of crime. I live in a farming community and near a RADA office, and for the past 12 years, no agricultural minister or no agriculture minister ever visited there, not to mention any MP, in a time when who is this? Who's want to, in a time when Julia Koch, is it, want to invest in agriculture, and Mackenzie Scott is investing in cocoa, what we call chocolate, and she is doing so in Turkey. And we are cutting down ours because our leaders are thinking backwards. I would also like, assuming that the leaders gave permission for that, the cutting down of those cocoa plants, assuming that there would be evidence of permission coming from credible sources, or those in the respective ministries. But anyway, the message goes on. I would also like to ask the land agent if there's a shortage of land in Jamaica, why it impossible for an investor with more than 30 billion US dollars seeking land here for over 6 years now and cannot get in a market like Jamaica. But as a former prime minister once said, the conditions in Jamaica have not or did not spring up overnight, but have allowed or have been allowed to get acute or to become acute. What Jamaica needs is practical and sympathetic people concerned about our development, and not I think you meant, is it charlatan you wanted to say? You have charlatan, not charlatan and self-seeker making big promises about nothing. Thank you for your message and all the best. We see a call coming through, but we can't take that call now because one of our regular listeners out of Florida is on the line. That's the text line, same as the WhatsApp number. So apologies to that caller who's trying to get on. 876-365-3346. So let's go to the listener who's been online holding for the past 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Yes, Mr. Malak, how am I doing? Well, if that call is listening, I'm off in 5 minutes after quarter. But quick one. This morning I heard the Chief Justice saying the security force are calling people crime producers and that have no standing in court. Where they get that idea that to call people crime producer?
Well, somebody started it. It remains to be seen who, or for us, it remains for us to learn who actually started it. But it certainly took a while for well, it's the first time I was here, the Chief Justice pronouncing on the matter. But the designation, the term, has been in full use in Jamaica for quite a few years now, at least several years, I would say. So the Chief Justice has spoken. Go ahead.
Jamaica start produce crime now.
Well, technically speaking, there's nothing wrong in saying, in talking about producing crime from the standpoint of bringing about something. No, man, not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's the word produce is not limited to what you regard as or what you call positive things. There's a fundamental. Sorry, go ahead.
If I read the police right, it is repeat offender they call that
there. I guess you could put that spin on it.
Okay. Well, I think the Chief Justice is saying those words have no standing in court.
Yes, because I think what the current police commissioner and the Minister of National Security, the Prime Minister, and the leader of the opposition uh, were seemingly coalescing around is the being able to hold in custody those people the police or some other source tell us uh, are up to no good in the community and they're always causing crime in the community, etc. So they wanted to be able they want to be able to hold these individuals that they claim or suspect or believe are the so-called uh, the so-called fomenters of crime and criminality in the communities. And so the both parties apparently agreed for the most part on that issue of what I call it pre-arrest
Pre-trial?
pre is it
Pre-charge.
something or another pre-charge detention or something to that effect, which the Chief Justice, by virtue of what he has said, uh, that cannot stand, because that's a breach of people's rights. It's one of two options, I think I heard him say. Option number one is you charge the person. Option number two, you release the person. It's either you're going to charge the person or release the person. But you can't just take it upon yourself to say, we're going to hold this person in custody for this length of time because we know that he is one who is stoking the fire of violence and crime in the community and so on. You still need evidence, that you still need uh, data that is going to support that position. Other than that, as the lawyers like to say, either you're going to charge my client or release him or her.
Yeah, I agree with them on that. Because when I think I want to bring into law.
Hold on, please. One moment. ¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5 menos 29. Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 5 heures moins 29. 现在几点了？5点差29分。29 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon here at Cast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Do you know where your children are? Are they where they're supposed to be? Doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's a good time to check up on the children. A good time for us to continue with more on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Still streaming live on the Cleaners website, go-jamaica.com. Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for holding. Please continue.
Yeah, what I want to bring into law is, when the police investigate a person, when you take him into custody, you have the evidence. That means when him go to court, the court will say to him, if you say you're guilty, you look on 10 years. But if you say you're not guilty and go on trial and lose, you look on 20 or whatever year. So that your police time to get it. Well, when those law come into place, they make the police more professional in get him act together before him arrest you. Too many times they take people in and then when they go to court, sometimes him don't have the evidence and the person walk.
Well, that's what most of the lawyers and the other experts are inveighing against. They're not into this business where you just lock up somebody and have them in custody for however long without charge and claiming to be continuing investigations while the person is in custody. You ideally you do your reconnaissance, you gather data, you seek out intelligence, etc., and evidence, etc., etc. And when you think you have reached that point where you have a compelling case, then by all means take the next step. So and so, you are under arrest for the death of so and so. You have the right to an attorney, blah, 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 blah. And the process begins or continues.
I see people that get handcuffed already, in Jamaica, and them ask, what them do? And then a quick flash, them start get some slap across them ears and drag them down the station. Which to me, that is,
no, you are supposed to be told why you're being arrested. If that moment comes, you're supposed to be able to.
He's supposed to tell you.
Yeah, you're supposed to be told.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then said, the song man said the man from uptown thing different from the man downtown. So I don't want to that's the problem.
Well, we hope not, but there are those who have experienced otherwise.
Well, so whenever you are a person of interest and them ask you to come in, why them always put in custody?
I don't know.
What they should do, every time you come in, they're documenting, and the last time you come in, the evidence is there. That's when they should go in custody. So I think most time when I say people, a person of interest, people running away or dodging them because they're not doing anything that the way it should be done. If me have the other person of interest and you come in today, and me talk to you, me document things, you go home tomorrow, you come back or whatever day, you come back with that. When the evidence is ready, and the last time you come, that's when we go give it the handcuff. You need to get them more professional.
That's in your jurisdiction, in your world. you make it sound like you own a whole country. But anyway, I get the point you're making.
No, some part of this United States, that's what they do it. They might build up the evidence by you. So each time you go, they might document things. So when the evidence is there when you come in the last time, that's when they go and coffee. Right. So when you go to court, you can't tell the judge nothing because the evidence is there.
Right.
All right, boss. I think somebody is holding on. So tomorrow again.
All right. Thanks for the call. Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah. This is your program of the story, Power 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com, live on your smart devices all over the world. Still taking your calls on 876 922 4112 to 5. 876 922 4112 to 5. Text line same as the WhatsApp number. Good afternoon, Alexandra Taylor. Good to see you. She says, good afternoon, my dear friend Dervan. Greetings from Toronto, Canada. Welcome, uh, Alexandra Taylor. Always good to see you online. Ricardo in Glengoff, St. Catherine, checking in as usual. Good afternoon to you. And Joan Edgehill says, always a pleasure listening to you. Thank you very much, Joan Edgehill. All the very best to you. And let's keep those comments coming in here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Let's go to... There's a lot. We're jumping a couple of sentences here. So earlier on, we were talking about Horatio Nelson. He was 5 feet 6 inches tall with a narrow chest, spindly legs, and sickly constitution. He never recovered after catching malaria as a teen. Horatio Nelson patrolled the seas during the American War of Independence. He first came to Jamaica during that same war on either the Badger or the Lowestoft. Those are ship names, the Badger or the Lowestoft. When Nelson was in Jamaica, the threat of French invasion from a nearby fleet was very real. It was during this time that he was promoted to captain in his early 20s in 1779 and put in charge of 500 men and the batteries at Fort Charles. Horatio Nelson was effectively made governor of Fort Charles in Port Royal in 1779. The French fleet, however, did not attack Jamaica. The raised wooden platform at Fort Charles is now known as Nelson's quarterdeck, and the fort itself boasts a plaque honoring him. The plaque at Fort Charles in Port Royal, Jamaica reads, "In this place dwelt Horatio Nelson. You who tread in his footprints, remember his glory." Horatio Nelson fell ill with fever, and on his return to Port Royal, he was carried ashore on a cot and taken to the house of Cuba Cornwallis, a free colored woman known to have saved the lives of numerous British soldiers. Cuba Cornwallis, that's Cubah, Cuba Cornwallis, Cornwallis, Cuba Cornwallis, carefully nursed Horatio Nelson back to health. He recuperated in the country, as in the rural parts. One of his spots was Flamstead in the Blue Mountains. He also spent some time at Admiral's Pen on Sly Pen Road recuperating from poisoning. Horatio Nelson spent close to a year and a half stationed in Jamaica at the British Naval Headquarters in Port Royal. For most of the 30 months he spent on the island, however, he was sick and begging to be transferred back to England, where he felt sure he would regain his health. The great Jamaican nurse, Mary Seacole, was married to Horatio Nelson's godson, Edwin Horatio Seacole. The first women's golf tournament was held on this day in 1811. A final attempt to prevent the SS Robert Carr to sail from Ireland to Jamaica by Dublin City Councillor Moore, who claimed that 2 emigrants, Patrick and Mary Purcell, were being detained on board the ship against their will. The Purcells were escorted to a court of petty sessions by the police, but were found to be willing and anxious to go to Jamaica. The first commercial bank was established in San Francisco, California, on this day in 1848. William Kennedy Laurie Dixon copyrighted the first motion picture on this day in 1894. The movie, filed in February 1893 at the Edison Studio in West Orange, New Jersey, featured 47 images of a man sneezing. New York State introduced a bill to outlaw flirting in public. Did you hear that? That was 1902. 1902. New York State introduced a bill to outlaw flirting in public. Richard Mills Nixon, the 37th President of the United States, was born on this day in California, the son of Quaker parents. Nixon grew up in the Southern California city of Yorba Linda. Early on, he proved himself to be a stellar student, attending Whittier College and graduating from Duke University Law School with honors. Nixon then joined the Navy and served during World War II as a lieutenant commander in the Pacific Theater. After the war, he gravitated toward Republican politics, joining the post-war anti-communist crusade. Jamaican master painter Barrington Watson was born in Lucy, Hanover, on this day in 1931. In addition to an accomplished artist, he's also an educator, author, philanthropist, and writer. Striking combinations of form and color that radiate with energy. Whatever his subject, be it landscape or the human form, he executes his work with great skill. And we have more, always have more. The first West Indian woman was admitted to practice medicine in New York City. On this day in 1932, she is Dr. Pearl Strawn, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lemuel Strawn of Kingston, Jamaica. She went to the USA at age 10 and attended the Wadley School and Hunter College, from where she earned the BA degree in 1926. She then studied medicine at Howard University, Washington, D.C., graduating in 1930. She served her internship at Harlem Hospital. She is also an accomplished pianist. R.A. Thomas of the Chapelton branch of the Jamaica Agricultural Society moved a resolution. This is just to remind us how long the problem of predial larceny has been with us. The problem of the so-called 2-foot puss, as declared by a former agriculture minister. 1941. R.A. Thomas of the Chapelton branch of the Jamaica Agricultural Society moved a resolution calling on government to purchase lands to be used as penal settlements for the incarceration of predial thieves, where they would be taught to cultivate. One moment, please. ¿Qué hora es en espagnol? Son las 5 menos 15. Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 5 heures moins 15. 现在7点了5点加14分. So we just changed the time from 15 to 14 minutes to. So it's 14 minutes now to 5 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Good afternoon to all working Jamaicans tuned into both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. It's a good time for us to ask ourselves, how productive have we been today? How productive have we been today? So we took you back to 1941. Let's give you the details. 1941. Just a reminder of how long the predial larceny problem has been with us. R.A. Thomas of the Chapelton branch of the Jamaica Agricultural Society moved a resolution calling on government to purchase lands to be used as penal settlements for the incarceration of predial thieves, where they would be taught to cultivate under prison conditions with a view to reclaiming them from idle habits. The proposal was supported with sympathy and was passed 85 to 24 votes. And another resolution advocating flogging in public of predial thieves in the districts in which they live was also passed. And to this day, the problem persists. Where are we now? Closer to $10 billion? The cost, 12 years ago, we were told, is it 12, 13 years ago, we were told by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, well, they estimated that every year predial larceny cost the Jamaican farmers up to $5 billion. $5 billion a year. Now, that was 13 years ago. I'm sure the figure has changed by now. Now, it's like it's something inside of some of us, I don't know, that you can't get it out of us. That we will jump the fence even if admission is free, some of us. Admission is free, but you have to jump the fence. Why? Admission is free. You don't need to jump the fence. Anyway, let's go to 1945, the formal opening of the new legislature, in which membership was based for the first time on universal adult suffrage, was broadcast by ZQI, Jamaica's first radio station, ZQI, and through the courtesy of Cable and Wireless. That's how long Cable and Wireless has been around. So on this day, 1945, the formal opening of the new legislature, in which membership was based for the first time on universal adult suffrage, was broadcast by ZQI and through the courtesy of Cable and Wireless, was re-radiated on shortwave throughout the Caribbean. The ceremony was also heard by the public in cinemas throughout the island, as well as in the Ward Theatre in downtown Kingston. Word was to come from the BBC, which had also decided to record the broadcast for later transmission in its overseas broadcasts, if the reception was satisfactory. And let's see. 1946, one of the U.S. Air Force super fortresses, which dropped one of the two atom bombs on Japan, arrived at the Palisados International Airport on this day in 1946. 2 4-star and 1 3-star general are reported on board the aircraft. What a thing. Jamaica is and was and perhaps forever will be involved in anything of significance. This one here. 1951, Charles Rainford got up after a restless night on death row at the St. Catherine District Prison in Spanish Town, and instead of walking to his execution on the gallows, learned that he had a reprieve of 7 days by order of the governor, so that his legal advisors can seek special permission to appeal to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in England. He had been condemned for murdering Anita Smith with a cutlass on Oxford Road in Kingston on January 14, 1950. His grave, which was dug the previous day in Murderers Cemetery in the prison, was left unopened. The first film to receive an X rating premiered on this day in 1951. The name of the film was Life After Tomorrow. Sir Winston Churchill visited Jamaica on this day in 1953. Sir Winston Churchill was a British statesman, soldier, and author, and the first man to be made an honorary citizen of the United States by an act of Congress on April 9, 1963. He was a graduate of Sandhurst Military Academy. It's a lot. Let's see. Let's jump and go to a closer connection here now. Right. So in uh, in 1951, he was again elected prime minister. 2 years later, he was knighted. That same year, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his mastery of historical and biographical presentation and for his brilliant oratory, excluding his use of Jamaica's. Let me see this. If uh, During World War II, Winston Churchill popularized the use of the V is for victory sign, which today is used, for example, by the Jamaica Labour Party. That's their symbol, the V, V for victory. And in fact, when Sir Winston Churchill visited Jamaica, when he visited Jamaica on the 9th of January 1953, he elicited loud cheers from Jamaicans when he flashed the V is for victory sign, which is still used in Jamaica today, especially, as we said, among supporters of the Jamaica Labour Party. Sir Winston Churchill was also the first person to receive the symbolic key to the city of Kingston. Sir Winston Churchill arrived on board the Independence, that's the name of the vessel, the personal plane of the that's the name of the aircraft, the personal plane of the President of the United States of America. Churchill was met by the governor, Sir Hugh Foote, and Sir Harold Mitchell, at whose house he was staying. A smart array of police constables formed a guard of honor, and Churchill began his inspection in his own inimitable way. Churchill next meets W.A. Bustamante, who presents him with cigars. Street scenes celebrate Churchill's arrival in St. James and Montego Bay, while Churchill gave his famous V sign from the car. He received a civil reception in Kingston on the 17th of January. The film showed further celebrations. There's a film with all of this. I watched it some time ago when Churchill came to Jamaica. He went to Spanish Town as well, the University College of the West Indies, now known as UWI. He gave a speech at UWI, and as we said, he was presented with the key to the city of Kingston that was presented by Mayor Edward Fagan. I think that's why they have a Fagan Avenue in Grantspen. And what time is it? Let's see if we can get in a couple more quickly. Because the Jamaican electorate voted in a referendum in September 1961 against the continued membership of the island in the Federation of the West Indies, Albert Gomes, an independent member of the federal parliament, gave notice of a motion which seeks to prevent Jamaica from seceding. His motion was, be it resolved that in the opinion of this honorable House, steps be taken by the federal government to see that the provisions of the Constitution be enforced to prevent the secession of any member of the Federation without the consent of the 10 constitutional members. On this day in 1963, the People's National Party was opposing the introduction of fingerprinting of voters, proposed as a method of reducing to a minimum or eliminating altogether the incidence of bogus voting in the island. 1964, government decided on this day in 1964 that as of April 1st, home leave would be abolished. Home leave was a special privilege enjoyed by senior civil servants, which provided them with free passage to and from England to spend a vacation of 6 months every 6 years with their wives and a maximum of 2 children below the age of 18. 1965, Jamaican boxing promoter and manager Lucien Chen and Jack Deschamps were named in the top 10 fight promoters and managers in the world by Ben Green in his column On the Fistic Chef in Sports Inquirer. a weekly paper published in New York City. 50 boys began training in agricultural, dairy, civic, and social skills at the Kenilworth Youth Camp in Hanover on this day in 1967. The dormitories for these boys had been constructed by campers at Cobbler and Chesterville, the two other youth camps which were established by Social Development Advisor Vin Lawrence. The Ministry of Labor had established a labor recruiting center in Mandeville in 1967 and was to establish others in Maypen, Black River, and Junction in St. Elizabeth. Not sure if all of that came to pass. Can we thank you once again for the privilege of serving you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story, for today, Monday, the 9th of January, 2023. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. All things being well, Both Sides of the Story returns tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 5. Till then, this is Dervan Malcolm reminding us that every day is an opportunity to do better than yesterday. Take care. Opposition to come away of the autumn, the battle sea with the sweeter, the better we have. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want, but you must try, 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 try. You succeed at last. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want, but you must try, 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 try. You succeed at last. Don't I show you?
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
5 o'clock.
News, comprehensive, powerful, and credible.
Power 106 FM now presents a simulcast of Radio Jamaica's News at 5.
Bye. Bye.
Good afternoon. I am Dervan Gordon.